Have you ever wondered what actually separates AI-generated images from true human art? The difference is much deeper than most people realize. Artists aren't just trying to recreate reality, they're actively changing how we see it. In this video, I'll reveal why even the most impressive AI art systems are fundamentally limited by their conservative design. You'll discover the one thing that all revolutionary art movements throughout history share that AI just can't replicate. I'm Evan Goldstein. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a data scientist. I'm building AI Capitalist to talk to the leaders and the thinkers, like you, about navigating this new world of thinking machines. So welcome back to our deep dive into AI and art. Now, last time we explored the fundamentals of the art debate and how AI researchers tend to view art as a mirror of reality with some emotional spice seasoned in. If you missed that episode, you should definitely go back and check it out. I've been thinking about this topic constantly since we last chatted. Just yesterday, I was playing around with Midjourney. I was creating these fantastical landscapes that honestly look better than anything I could paint myself. It got me wondering, am I making art right now? Or am I just operating a really sophisticated tool? So let's dig deeper into how these AI systems actually create images and what that might tell us about the nature of art.
One thing that artists have always been very good at is taking a tool that exists in the world and making it do something it's not supposed to do. When artists are looking at technology as another kind of tool to experiment with, or maybe even subvert or divert, they're saying, I'm not just going to reject this technology wholesale at all. In fact, I might embrace it, but I might try and make it do something else.
So before we jump in, let's quickly refresh what we covered last time. We talked about how difficult it is to define art objectively. Even forgeries that look identical to originals lose their value once their true origin is revealed. We explored how AI researchers approach art from a scientific perspective, viewing artistic creation primarily as an attempt to reflect reality, maybe some emotional expression thrown in. The AI researchers' view assumes that intelligence, and therefore art creation, is fundamentally about objectively modeling the world. This scientific approach has led to amazing technological achievements, but it might be missing something fundamental about what artists themselves believe that they're doing. So today, let's look at how AI actually generates art, and then we'll start exploring the artist's perspective, which is dramatically different from the researcher's view.
It has already begun. Just last year, of all things, automated art hit the scene with products like Midjourney, OpenAI's DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion by Stability AI. These are text-to-image models, so they take input from the user in the form of a natural language prompt, like you're seeing right there. And then there's a complicated process, and they return an image that matches that prompt. It automates art. It automates art. It's exactly what you think it is. You type in some words and a picture comes out. Ooh, great, nice, good. No, that's good. I have to admit, I did not see that one coming. Have yet to see any of those long-promised self-driving cars on the road, but the internet is filled with machine-made art. Do I sound mad? Of course I am, because I'm a visual artist. Lucky me. I've been a professional designer and illustrator for over a decade. I love drawing. I don't know how to make that as clear as possible. I really love it. It has given me so many gifts: discipline, perseverance, self-awareness, compassion. It's helped me get through grief and loss. And art making can do that because art making is a vehicle for self-transformation. And it allows you, amazingly, to share that transformation with others. But it's not the end product that transforms the artist. It's the act of doing it. It's the act of making the art. In the age of automated art, we might still have art, but we stand to lose everything that there is to gain in the making.
When AI researchers analyze art, they typically take one of three approaches. First approach is reductionist. Art can be broken down into measurable features like color variation, contrast, the rule of thirds, novelty, etc. This is like saying that a good cake can be defined by precise measurements of sugar, flour, and baking time. Then the behaviorists, where if people think it looks like art, then it is art. This is similar to saying that if it tastes good to most people, it's a good cake, without worrying too much about the recipe. And then you have the dismissive types. Art is inherently irrational, and studying its meaning is pointless. This would be like saying, talking about why some cakes are better than others is just subjective nonsense. I find the cake analogy helpful because following a recipe to the letter doesn't guarantee a good cake. There's something about the process, the intuition, the knowing when something feels right that can't be easily quantified. These approaches show up in how AI art is actually created. The reductionist approach starts by listing features that make good art, things like color balance, contrast levels, or composition elements. Then the AI creates images with those ideal values, adding a bit of randomness for variation. It's like following a very specific recipe with a bit of improvisation. The behaviorist approach is what popular AI tools like DALL-E, ChatGPT, and Midjourney use. They don't restrict output to any particular style. You can ask for Baroque, you can ask for conceptual art, you can ask for cave paintings. All that matters is feeding it enough labeled examples so that it can generate something that looks like that style. I spent hours playing with these tools, and it's amazing how you can type painting in the style of Frida Kahlo and then get something that generally looks like her work. But I've also noticed that if you ask for something completely original, the result tends to feel generic somehow. Both approaches share some important similarities. First, they define artness as something objective in the works themselves, not in anyone's interpretation. The art quality is in the painting, not in your response to it.
The AI is not using our value system. It's not using our points of reference. It's just peering into another type of mind.
I think we are at a crucial inflection point right now. I've been calling it the generative turn. It's a moment where what we previously understood as how everything from illustration to film directing to publishing works is all about to change very rapidly. There is this assumption that AI systems are somehow highly scientifically objective, that they are presenting a view on the world that is somehow unmediated. But of course, the opposite is true. These are systems that are profoundly skewed from the absolute beginning, from the data that they're trained on. This is something that I worked with Trevor Paglen on, where we studied the training data sets that are used to teach AI systems to see the world.
Second, they both try to fit generated images to some predefined distribution. In the reductionist case, it's a set of fixed features. In the behaviorist case, it's a set of images that it was trained on. And in both cases, the target is static, and it only changes if you add new features or images to the training. Third is that they both start with randomness. Modern text-to-image generators use a rectangle of random pixels as their initial canvas. Then they adjust those pixels until they can match the desired distribution. I think that's really fascinating. They literally start with noise and then gradually transform it into recognizable images. This randomness is necessary because creativity in AI research is usually defined as a combination of novelty and usefulness. Novelty comes from unpredictability, or randomness, and usefulness is measured by whether humans like the result. As one researcher put it, Deep Dream is clearly not simply replicating or near replicating any of the training set images. By design, Deep Dream outputs bear visual similarity to the input images, but the resemblance is not so slavish as to exclude creativity. This is from a paper called Informing Artificial Intelligence Generative Techniques Using Cognitive Theories of Human Creativity. Another paper notes that AI-generated art has reached a level where it can evoke aesthetic appreciation and surprise, which is often indistinguishable from human-created works, challenging our understanding of creativity. And that comes from Mohammad Reza Bari's The Rise of AI Art, Redefining Creativity and Innovation. So if you assume that this is similar to how humans create art, then the theory is complete and AI can be considered creatively artistic.
Every single time an artist speaks out about this issue, I see the same tired, overused counterpoints to try to quiet that artist down. And I am just so tired of it. People saying things such as, you put your work online, it's on the internet, it's free for us to use. That's simply a misunderstanding of the law. Just because something is online doesn't mean you can use it for whatever you want, especially not for commercial purposes. I've also heard people say that AI takes inspiration from references just like artists do. When someone says this, chances are, number one, they don't understand the artistic creative process, or number two, they don't understand how AI works. AI takes data directly from that dataset, and it's able to create a perfect replica. Humans simply cannot. And if you point to the examples of forgery in the art world, that practice is not something that we condone. That practice is highly frowned upon. A human has to literally look at the inspiration, process it in their minds, combine it with their life experiences, with the way they feel, with how they approach every single brushstroke. I've seen thousands of studies of my work that people post online and tag me in, and in every single one of those pieces, even if it's a complete one-to-one study, I can see the unique human touch that made that piece their own. So no, an artist taking inspiration from someone else's work and studying a reference is not the same as AI image generation.
As an aside, I've noted that this is similar to how AI mimics emotions, where if I ask you a question, you're going to answer one way or another depending on what mood you're in. But when an AI is asked a question, it wants to mimic that feeling of a certain randomness. To me, your emotional state is random. I don't know what you were up to or what was happening to you or how well you slept before I saw you. And so your response is going to be guided by your emotional output, by your emotional input to the response. But from an AI's perspective, it's completely random. It just turns a little bit of random mood, and there's randomness to the response. Your response is not random. It only appears that way to me. So the only difference between human art and AI art from this perspective is that humans come up with their own ideas, called prompts, but even that gap could be bridged with language models like GPT. And at that point, we could claim to have created a complete artificial artist. But here's where things get really interesting. What if that's not what art is primarily about at all? And if you appreciate this content, like a fine painting, I would appreciate it if you would press like. Pressing like lets me know that I'm making content you want to see, and then it spreads that value to others. So thank you for supporting Capitalist and helping us break out of small channel hell. So I had an eye-opening conversation with my artist grandmother a few weeks ago. She's been a working artist for her whole life. When I explained the AI researcher's view of art to that, she just laughed and said that's not why she makes art at all. She told me, I don't care about recreating what I see. I care about making people see differently. Artists, as you might expect, have a very different perspective on what art is. Their view isn't based on scientific objectivity or data modeling. They don't approach a canvas thinking, I'm going to accurately recreate what I see with 98% fidelity. If we had to sum up the last 100 years of art in one sentence, it might be this quote from the playwright Bertolt Brecht. Art is not a mirror to hold up to society, but a hammer with which to shape it. Brecht was a German playwright and a poet who developed an influential form of theater that encouraged audiences to think critically about social issues rather than just be emotionally swept away. Compare this approach to AI. While AI treats art as a mirror reflecting some aspect of life, society, the physical world, other art, or emotions, artists see art as something that changes how viewers think and feel. Art isn't passive, it's active. It doesn't just show us what it is, it shows us what could be, or what should be. And these changes can be significant. Revolutionary art alters the very concepts through which people perceive art itself, and even how they see the world. It's like when someone shows you an optical illusion, and then afterward you can't help but see things a little differently. Consider composer Arnold Schoenberg's dissonant music from the early 20th century, which challenged not just classical harmony, but the idea of harmony itself. His music sounded wrong to many listeners because it deliberately broke the rules of what was considered pleasant or correct. It was noted in the Forbidden Music, Schoenberg at 150, His music broke free from the traditional harmony, reshaping not only musical composition, but also challenging the complacency of classical ideas. Schoenberg wasn't just making weird music, he was challenging the entire system of musical values. So the first time I heard Schoenberg's music in a music appreciation class in college, my initial reaction was, this is terrible. But after learning about what he was trying to do, challenging the very notion of what music should be, it changed how I listened to all that music after that. It affected my own perception. Or take Marcel Duchamp's famous or infamous Fountain from 1917, which was literally just a urinal that he signed with a fake name. This piece from the Dadaist movement wasn't just another artwork. It was fundamentally questioning what art even is. Dadaism was an art movement that emerged after the horrors of World War I, when many artists felt that traditional values and rationality had led them to catastrophe in the trenches. Dada rejected logic and reason in favor of nonsense, irrationality, and provocation. By putting a urinal in an art gallery and calling it art, Duchamp wasn't making a beautiful object. He was asking us to reconsider our entire definition of art. From this perspective, art isn't just a collection of paintings or photographs. It's the entire historical process of change. Like a wave moving through human history, with individual artists being just single drops within that vast wave. Each new art movement doesn't just add more art to the pile. It changes our understanding of what came before, and it opens possibilities for what might come next. This creates a fundamental limitation for AI art. Without access to the historical and social circumstances that give birth to artistic trends, AI-generated art can only produce random variations of what existed before. It can't create something truly revolutionary, like Duchamp's urinal. If you were trying to recreate the historical progression of art in a laboratory, say by excluding all art from before 1917 from a given training set, an AI trained on that data set would not spontaneously produce Duchamp's fountain. All it could contribute would be undirected, random variations of what existed before then. Now, this means that AI will always lag behind societal changes in art. New styles will always show up in human art first, and only later, after retraining the models, will they appear in AI art. It's a one-way street. Human artists lead, and AI follows. I tested this experiment myself by prompting various AI art tools to create revolutionary art that challenges conventional aesthetics. And guess what I got? Mostly surrealist-looking images with some cubist elements thrown in. In other words, revolutionary art styles from 100 years ago. The AI has no concept of what would be revolutionary today because it hasn't been created yet. This limitation is built into scientific methodology itself. The entire approach of science, from double-blind testing to replication studies, is driven by the principle that researchers should observe without changing what they're studying. Scientists must only observe and reflect reality, not alter it. Art is all about creating change. What we're discovering is that there's an inherent conservatism built into how AI generates art. It can beautifully blend and recombine what already exists, but it can't challenge our fundamental assumptions about what art is or what it should be. It can't decide on its own to place a urinal in a gallery and call it art. That doesn't mean that AI-generated images aren't beautiful or valuable. Some of them are stunning, better than anything I could make, that's for sure. But they'll always be following trends set by human artists, never leading them.
Once AI starts to create this new reality, we learn that there is no any borders between these biased categories that we need as humans to understand things. It is blending past, now, and future. It is blending multiple materials. It's just a convergence of things that we thought they are independent.
The AI is not using our value system. It's not using our points of reference. It's just peering into another type of mind.
In our next episode, which is going to come out in about a week, we'll explore why this matters and how it leads to another issue with AI art, the tendency to reinforce the status quo rather than to challenge it.
The art. In the age of automated art, we might still have art, but we stand to lose everything that there is to gain in the making. Now, these AI companies are going to say that their offerings are all of this: ethical, compliant, fair. That's all branding.
We'll also look at the real creativity in AI art, which might not be where you would expect. And we'll consider what the future might hold for the relationship between AI and art. I'm also excited to share some thoughts on whether AI could ever be programmed to be truly revolutionary in its artistic output, drawing from some interesting feedback I've received on the topic. Until next time, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you created anything with AI art tools? Do you consider those creations to be your art? The line between tool and artist is getting blurrier by the day, and I think there's a conversation that's worth having. So I'll see you in the next episode where we'll explore why AI art tends to reinforce mainstream views and what that means for the future of human creativity.